Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 29, Slokas 10 and 11. Dusaha Prishta Viraha Tivratapa Dutasubha Dhyana Praptachuta Shlesa Nivritya Shinamangala Tam Eva Paramatmanam Jara Buddhya Pisangata Jahur Guna Mayam Deham Sadhya Praksina Bandhanaha. Translation. For those gopis who could not go to see Krishna, intolerable separation from their beloved caused an intense agony that burned away all impious karma. By meditating upon him, they realized his embrace, and the ecstasy they then felt exhausted their material piety. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Soul, these girls simply thought of him as their male lover and associated with him in that intimate mood. Thus, their karmic bondage was nullified and they abandoned their gross material bodies. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments upon this verse as follows. Here, Sukadeva Goswami speaks in a particular way. He presents the intimate object the gopis attained as if it were an external idea, thus keeping its true nature secret from outsiders, while at the same time he reveals to the confidential devotees well versed in the scientific conclusions of devotional service, the internal meaning that is his real purport. Thus, to outsiders, Sukadev says that Krishna gave the gopis liberation. But to the confidential hearers, Sukadev reveals that when the gopis experience separation from their beloved, there arose in them both immeasurable unhappiness and immeasurable happiness, and that they gradually achieved their desired goals. Thus, the verse can be understood as follows. Because of their intolerable separation from their beloved, the gopis felt terrible agony by which they caused all inauspicious things to tremble. In other words, when people in general hear of the gopis' extreme agony and separation from their beloved, they abandon thousands of inauspicious things, things even as fearsome as the subterranean fires of millions of universes, or the powerful poison swallowed by Lord Shiva. More specifically, those who hear of the gopis' love in separation give up their terrible false ego, and thinking themselves defeated, are shaken. When the gopis meditated on Lord Achyuta, he became manifest and personally came to them, and they experienced great joy by embracing his body, which was full of transcendental love for them. The gopis also experienced great joy by exhibiting personal characteristics and a sense of identification appropriate to such love. That joy made all their good fortune, both material and spiritual, seem paltry by compassion. The implication is that when other persons see how happy the gopis became upon embracing Krishna when he manifested himself directly before them, these other persons feel that thousands of so-called auspicious objects are insignificant by comparison, including all the sense gratificatory pleasures found in millions of universes, and even the supersensory pleasure of spiritual bliss, Brahmananda. Thus, hearing of the gopis' distress and the joy that arose, respectively, out of their separation from the Supreme Lord and their union with Him, anyone can get rid of all the reactions of his past activities, both sinful and pious. Vaishnavas certainly do not think that sinful and pious reactions can be destroyed only by being lived out, since, after all, neither separation from the Supreme Lord nor direct association with Him are in the category of karma. This kind of elimination of karmic reactions occurs in the stage of bhajan for those who have come to the level of anartha nivritti. And thus the gopis thought of Krishna, the Paramatma, or supreme worthy object of all love, as their paramour. Even though such a concept is ordinarily contemptible, the gopis realized Krishna in an even fuller sense than did Rukmini and his other queens, who thought of him most respectfully as their husband. That thinking of the Lord as one's paramour is superior to thinking of him as one's husband is proved by the fact that unbridled pure love is superior to domesticated love. This idea is born out of the following words of Sri Uddhav. Yadustyajam swajanam aryapatam chahitva. These ladies of Braja abandoned their families and their advanced religious principles, even though to do so is very difficult. In his pastimes on earth, Krishna often turns the most lowly things into the most elevated. As Bhisma stated, Krishna's pastime of acting as Arjuna's chariot driver was even more elevated than the pastimes in which he acted as a mighty king of kings. Vijaya Ratakutumba Ataptotre Dridahaya Rasmini Tachirishaniye. I concentrate upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, and who was very careful to protect Arjuna's chariot by all means. Similarly, in the Lord's appearance as Krishna, we see that the normally inferior conjugal ras becomes better than the normally superior mood of Shantaras, as also the attitude of loving a paramour becomes superior to the loving exchange between legitimate spouses, and lowly gunja necklaces, red oxide paste, and peacock feathers become better than the most excellent jeweled ornaments. But it may be objected, if it is not fitting for the Supreme Lord to sport with women whose bodies have already been enjoyed by other men, this objection is replied to by the words beginning Jahu. The word Deham is used here in the singular form to indicate unity of category. Even though the gopis are many, some authorities say that by the power of Yoga Maya, these gopis' bodies disappeared in a way no one noticed. But other authorities say that the body referred to in this context is the inferior body, composed of the modes of material nature. Thus, by the prominence of the adjective guna mayam, it is understood that before the gopis heard the sound of Krishna's flute, their bodies had been twofold, material and spiritual. And upon hearing the flute, they gave up the material bodies, which their husbands had enjoyed. We may analyze this as follows. When devotees begin prosecuting devotional service in accordance with the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, they engage their ears and other senses in pure devotion by hearing of the Lord, chanting his glories, remembering him, offering obeisances to him, giving him personal attention, and so forth. Thus, the devotees make the Lord's transcendental qualities the objects of their senses, as stated by the Lord himself, Nirguno Madhya Apashraya. In this way, the devotees' bodies transcend the material modes. Yet sometimes the devotees may take as their sense objects mundane sounds and so on, and that is material. Thus, a devotee's body can have two aspects, transcendental and material. According to one's level of devotional service, to that degree, the transcendental aspect of one's body become prominent and the material aspects diminish. This transformation is described in the following verse from the Bhagavatam. Bhakti Paresanubhavo Viraktir Anyatra Chaisa Treka Eka Kalaha Prapadya Manasya Yatasnatasyas Tushti Pushti Shud Apaya Nugasam. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. When one achieves totally pure love of God, the material portions of the body disappear and the body becomes completely spiritual. Nonetheless, so as not to disturb the false opinions of atheists, and so as to protect the confidentiality of devotional service, the Supreme Lord usually has his illusory energy exhibit the demise of the gross body. An example of this is the disappearance of the Yadavas during the Moshala Leela. Sometimes, however, to proclaim the excellence of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna will allow a devotee to go back to Godhead in his self-same body, as in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. We can cite evidence for this point from the 25th chapter of the 11th canto, verse 32. Yene me nirjita somya guna jivena chittaja bhakti yogena matnishto madbhavaya prapadyate. A living entity who conquers the modes of material nature, which are manifested from the mind, can dedicate himself to me, Krishna, by the process of devotional service, and thus attain pure love for me. Here, the Lord states that the defeat and destruction of that which is composed of the modes of material nature can be brought about only by the process of devotional service. Therefore, what we should understand from the present verse of the Bhagavatam is that the gopis who could not go to see Krishna had their inauspicious material bodies removed or burned up, while their auspicious spiritual bodies, far from being destroyed, simply grew more prominent because of the ecstasy the gopis felt by embracing Krishna in meditation. Thus their bondage was completely destroyed by the help of Yoga Maya. They got free from ignorance and also from the prohibitions of their husbands and other relatives. We should not make the mistake of explaining this falling away of the gopis' bodies as being a result of their dying, as the Lord himself states, Ye maya krideta ratriyam vanesmin braja astitaha alabda rasa kalyanyo mapur madvirya chintaya. Some of those all-auspicious gopis could not directly join me in enjoying the rasa dance on that night in this Vrindavan forest. Yet still they achieved my association by remembering my transcendental pastimes. So by using the word kalyanya in this verse, the Lord implies, even though these gopis wanted to give up their bodies because of their husbands' prohibitions and the torment of separation from me, for them to die at the very beginning of the most auspicious festival of the rasa dance would have been displeasing to me and thus inauspicious, so they did not die. More evidence that the gopis who were prevented from going to see Krishna did not physically die is provided by a statement of Sri Sukadev's later in this canto. Ta uchur udavam pritastat sandesagata smritihi. Then they, the gopis, replied to Uddhava, feeling satisfied because his message had reminded them of Krishna. Here we understand that the gopis speaking to Uddhava were the ones who had not had the chance to participate directly in the rasa dance because of being held captive in their homes. Thus the conclusion is that they gave up their material bodies without dying, parched by the intense heat of separation. Their material bodies gave up their materiality and became purely spiritual, just like the bodies of such great devotees as Dhruva Maharaj. This is the meaning of the gopis giving up their bodies. The following analogy illustrates the statuses of the various gopis. By observing 7 or 8 ripe mangoes on a tree, we can ascertain that all the fruits on the tree are ripe. Then we can pick them all and bring them home, where in due course the sun's rays and other agents will make them fine-looking, fragrant, and delicious, fit to be offered to the king for his enjoyment. When the time comes for the king to take his meal, a discriminating servant can choose those fruits ready to offer to him. From the appearance of the fruits, the servant can tell which are ripe in the middle and still raw on the outside, and thus not yet fit for the king. By the application of a special heating process, these remaining fruits will become ripe in 2 or 3 days, and then they too will be ready to offer to the king. Similarly, among the Munichari gopis who took birth in Gokul, those who completely gave up the materiality of their bodies and very early in life achieved purely spiritual bodies were able to remain untouched by any other man. Thus, Yogamaya allowed them to join the Nitya Siddha and other advanced gopis when they went to meet Krishna. Other Munichari gopis still retain some connection with the external material body, but even they, after being parched by the heat of separation from Sri Krishna, gave up the materiality of their bodies and assumed perfectly transcendental bodies, purified of all taint of contact with other men. On the night of the Rasa dance, Yogamaya sent some of these gopis out behind those who had already gone out. Others who Yogamaya saw still had a slight amount of contamination. She kept back to further purify with the heat of separation, and then she sent them out on some other night. After enjoying the pleasures of the rasa dance and other pastimes with Krishna, the Munichari gopis who had participated went back to their homes when the night was over, as did the Nitya Siddha and other advanced gopis. But now Yoga Maya protected these Munichari gopis from the material association of their husbands. In other words, these gopis were devoid of any selfish attachment for husband, children, and so on. Since these gopis were thoroughly immersed in the great ocean of love for Krishna, their breasts dried up so that they could not feed their infants, and to their family members, they appeared as if haunted by ghosts. In conclusion, it is not unseemingly that the gopis who were previously in material association joined in the rasa dance. Some authorities, however, maintain that the gopis who were kept back in their houses did not have children. According to them, whenever such words as apadya, meaning children, are used in verses yet to come, these words refer to the children of co-wives, to adopted children, or to nephews and nieces. So this is the end of the purport, finally. My goodness, it's really a big purport, isn't it? There's so much there.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, that's why we waited. We wanted to hear from you.
Uh-huh. Okay. So it must be a very, very important verse, right? When we have such a long purport, we can understand this must be a very significant verse. So let's read the verse again. For those gopis who could not go to see Krishna, intolerable separation from their beloved caused an intense agony that burned away all impious karma. By meditating upon him, they realized his embrace, and the ecstasy they then felt exhausted their material piety. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Soul, these girls simply thought of him as their male lover and associated with him in that intimate mood. Thus their karmic bondage was nullified, and they abandoned their gross material bodies. All right, so we're told a lot here about the gopis, how they got free of their karma. We were hearing how the time of Rasa Leela, Lord Krishna had played the flute, and the gopis in general, they all came running. They left everything and came to Krishna. But some gopis were not able to go because their husbands were more powerful. Their husbands would keep them back. So this, of course, this is something we want to understand, that these gopis who were not able to go and join with Krishna, their karma, or they were not so qualified to go to be with Krishna, and they had to be there in the home with their husbands. But although they could not go to see Krishna, they meditated upon him, and their deep attachment, they were described here, intolerable separation caused intense agony. That pain of being separate from someone who you have such love, such attachment to. So that caused them some intense agony. But still, they continued to remember Krishna, and they realized his embrace. Meditating upon him, they're meditating, absorbed in thought of Krishna and embracing Krishna. And we're told that ecstasy exhausted their material piety. So burned up all their past karma. And they're freed of all that karma. And we're told these gopis, they simply thought of Krishna as their lover. In that intimate mood, they're thinking of Krishna as their lover. So in this way, their karma was nullified, and they were able to give up their gross material body. So then the purport is all from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was our great acharya on the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis. And you can see he's explaining so many details to us. We're told how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is speaking about Sukadeva Goswami. And he says Sukadeva Goswami presents his subject matter, the rasa dance, in such a way that we feel both pain and pleasure. But he does it in such a way that he's covering the true nature from outsiders, because not everyone is qualified to understand the higher details of the rasa dance. You know, there's many outsiders, and they're thinking Krishna and gopis, they're thinking this is some ordinary love affair. And they're thinking they can also enjoy, like the gopis, they can also enjoy this rasa dance. So Sukadeva Goswami, he covers up the real meaning, and he does it in such a way that he presents the Brahman, talks about the impersonal feeling, doesn't speak about the bhava and the prema, which is the real goal of bhakti, the ultimate goal. But Sukadeva Goswami, he's covering it. He wants only the devotees, only pure devotees, they should know the real meaning behind the Lord's pastime. So we're hearing about the pain of the gopis, the agony they felt. That pain is actually ecstasy. It's the highest kind of pleasure to feel that pain of separation from Krishna. They have such deep attachment to Krishna that they feel so much pain. And we're told that pain is more powerful than even the poison which Lord Shiva drank. Lord Shiva is Nilachala, right? He drank the poison and his throat became blue. But the pain of the separation which the gopis are feeling is greater than what Lord Shiva was experiencing. So that we hear about the gopis meditating and how by their meditation, the Lord Krishna actually becomes manifest and he personally comes to them. In their meditation, they're personally with Krishna and they experience the joy of embracing his body. So the pleasure they feel, and then it's so much greater than anything we can imagine in our conditioned state. And we're told the idea is, the intention is, or the implication is that when we hear about how much pleasure the gopis are getting, then we will also be attracted that, oh, I would like to enjoy like this. As the gopis are enjoying, I also want this. And we can meditate on Krishna, and Krishna can appear, and Krishna can embrace his devotee. So this is of course, this is spiritual pleasure. And that pleasure cannot be compared to any kind of material pleasures in the material world. So the gopis were feeling ecstasy, they were feeling also distress. They were feeling distress due to their separation. But that feeling of distress, that was also ecstasy. They were feeling also some pleasure because they're absorbed in Krishna. And by remembering Krishna, then they get everyone who can remember Krishna, then we will destroy our karma, our past karma. And it's mentioned we'll destroy both the sinful and the pious karma. Because sinful and pious karma is going to keep you in the material world. And devotee doesn't want to be in the material world. Devotee wants to be with Krishna in his home, in the spiritual world. So in the purport also they talk about how some people think that one's karma, one's sinful and pious reactions can be destroyed just by suffering the karma and enjoying the karma. Or as they say in the purport, just by living it out. Right? In the course of time, you get some karmic reactions. So people think that's one way to get rid of the karma. But devotees don't think like that. And we're told feeling separation from the Lord or being with the Lord, that is not karma. That is not karma. That is devotional service. So then goes on, this kind of elimination of karmic reactions occurs in the stage of bhajan. Right? And for those who have come to the level of anartha nivritti. So bhajan, come to the state of adau shraddha bhajana kriya anartha nivritti tato nishta ruchistata. So the stage of bhajan, adau shraddha sadhu sangha bhajana kriya, that can be the third stage. And then it can, after bhajana kriya, then anartha nivritti. So devotees want to get through these stages. Bhajana kriya, that's usually where you get the shelter of a devotee, a spiritual teacher, you get initiation, and then you go on and do anartha nivritti. So the gopis, they're not doing any karma. It's not karma for them. Their direct association with Krishna. It's nothing to do with karma. This is the result of their pure love for Krishna. So the gopis thought of Krishna as their lover. Just like Mother Yashoda thinks of Krishna as her son, the gopis think of Krishna as their lover. And that pleasure of being lovers, that is greater than being husband and wife. The husband and wife, their pleasure is like domestic, right? That's the pleasure of the home, domesticated enjoyment. But the gopis, their love with Krishna is without marriage. So it's greater, it's a greater pleasure. And even devotees like so like devotees like Subhuti Rai and different devotees in Krishna consciousness, you know, they experience the pleasure of loving Krishna. They're happy in the service of Krishna, and they experience. But the love for Krishna is not yet on the highest stage of bhava or prema. Those are very exalted stages. But still, they have an attachment for Krishna. So they discuss about how the gopis love because it's without marriage. So we think, oh, it's very disgusting to have a loving exchange with a man without marriage. You know, this is not acceptable in society. But with the gopis, it's different. In the material world, what is the lowest pleasure in the material world is the highest pleasure in the spiritual world. We have to understand that we're dealing with the material world. In the material world, there will be trouble. And we're told about how Rukmini and the other queens, they had love for Krishna. Of course, they're Krishna's wives, but their love for Krishna is not as great as the gopis. There's more love, but it's more exciting when when you're not married, you know. So described here, unbridled, pure love. So in the material world, of course, it's a perverted reflection that how we, young men and young women, they have loving exchange without marriage. That is the lowest thing. But in the spiritual world, that is the highest. Remember when Lord Krishna is dancing Rasa Lila with the gopis, he's only 8 years old. And so the gopis are also very young girls. But still, many of the gopi ladies, they were married, and the verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, how these ladies, they abandoned their families and they gave up their religious principles just simply to serve Krishna, to go to be with Lord Krishna. And of course, it's not easy to do that. Families and ladies are naturally be very attached to their children and their religious principles also they've been cultivating throughout their life. They don't like to give up, but they did this simply for Lord Krishna. So it's a very interesting section in the purport there where they talk about how Krishna can turn the most lowest thing into the most elevated. And you have the example, the verse is quoted about Bhisma and how he's seeing Lord Krishna on the chariot, acting as a charioteer for Arjuna. And Bhisma said that Lord Krishna being Arjuna's chariot driver, that's even higher than the pastimes in which Krishna is the king of kings. Yeah, Krishna is the king of kings, but that's all with great awe and reverence. You have to give great respect. But here on the battlefield, Lord Krishna is driving the chariot for Arjuna. And Lord Krishna's Bhishma describes how he says, I concentrate upon the chariot driver with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, and how he's very careful to protect Arjuna's chariot. So that meditation on that form of Krishna, it's more attractive than seeing Krishna sit on the throne as a king. It gives more pleasure to the devotee. Mm. So the love between Krishna and the gopis is higher than the love between Lord Krishna and his queens in Dwarka. And they they give this another example that Lord Krishna in Vrindavan he's wearing gunja necklace and red oxide paste and peacock feathers. But these ornaments from the forest of Vrindavan, they're better than the most excellent jeweled ornaments. You know, when he goes to Dwarka as a prince, whatever, if he goes, but that appearance of Lord Krishna decorated with things from the forest is better than seeing Krishna with the best jewels. Like when he comes from Dwarka, it's got all these beautiful jeweled ornaments. But the gopis, they prefer Krishna from Vrindavan with the peacock feather and the gunja necklace and the red oxide paste. And then there's more discussion about how it's not proper for Krishna to enjoy with women whose bodies have already been enjoyed by other men. That these gopis have already been married to they're married women, and their husbands have enjoyed their bodies. And how could Lord Krishna involve with them? So it's explained to us. It's the power of Yoga Maya that the gopis' bodies disappeared in a way no one noticed. So there's different bodies. You see, there's the subtle, there's the inferior body, and there's the spiritual body. And we're told when the gopis heard Krishna's flute, their bodies changed. When they heard Krishna's flute, they have a material body, but they also have a spiritual body. So when they heard the flute, they gave up the material body. That was what the husbands had been enjoying. The husbands, they didn't enjoy the spiritual body, they were enjoying the material body. And so this is discussed also what happens in the process of devotional service. When we engage in devotional service under the instructions of the spiritual teacher, we use our different senses in devotional service, then we become purified. The Lord's transcendental qualities become the objects of the devotee's senses. So the devotees' bodies transcend the material modes. The material body, they will take the material sounds, material objects. But a devotee's body has two features. There can be the transcendental or spiritual body and the material body. So the material body will perceive mundane sounds, the material aspects of everything. But the spiritual body will be in relation to Krishna. So according to our level of devotional service, one body will be more prominent than the other. The more we advance, then the more the spiritual body will be prominent. And they quote this famous verse from the 11th Canto Bhagavatam, where devotional service is compared to eating. Right? As you eat, you feel pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger. These things come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite. Right? You're hungry in the beginning, you start eating, and you feel some relief from hunger. And with that relief from hunger, you feel also nourishment and strength, and you feel pleasure. So this is the process of devotional service. In the same way it happens like that we feel devotion and direct experience of the Lord and detachment from other things. We feel these things one after another through devotional service. And then we're told also how devotees can go back to Godhead sometimes in the same body, just like Dhruva Maharaj. And I think also the Pandavas, they also described they went back to Godhead in the same body. Mm-hmm. Getting a bit late. I don't want to go too late. Huh? Maybe we'll finish this purport tomorrow.
Okay, Guru Maharaj. Let's see.
We got as far as that purport about Dhruva Maharaj going back to Godhead in the same body. And we'll finish the rest of the purport tomorrow. Because there's quite a lot there. We don't want to rush it.
Okay, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
It was so beautiful. Thank you. His
I
Holiness
just had one
Bhakti.
question.
Yes.
Yeah, when Guru Maharaj was talking about spiritual and material body, I was thinking, is it that the gopis had lost their mind and were in higher intelligence? The mind was not working because I was trying to relate it with what happened with me when I was going to Vrindavan this time. I was like, oh, in my temple, I don't have this, I don't have that. When I go to Vrindavan, I'll buy this. But when I was in Vrindavan, I completely forgot about all these things. There were shops there, but I didn't do any shopping. I was so lost that I have to just go and reach to the temple and, offer my prayers there. And then when I came back here to Taiwan, I was like, oh, I forgot to bring these things. So it was like I came to the material mode. I was like, oh my God, how did I forget? I need these things for my temple, for my Krishna. And I was seeing the, pillows and the cushions and everything. Bhavna had told me, you can have the cushion for Krishna when you are giving bhog. I was like, yeah, when I go Vrindavan, I'm going to bring this. But I just forgot. I was just there, So is it the mind that shuts off and you become in that, you come in that body, or what is it, the gopis, when you say, they came in, they just forgot about their husbands, is it that, they came in the spiritual body, the mind just shuts off, or what is it,
Well, we do have a
it's
spiritual mind.
yeah,
You do have a spiritual mind, but
yeah,
that definitely, we're coming into Vrindavan and seeing everything. It's certainly an experience, and
yeah.
it's difficult to focus. You're in such a different environment from anything,
Yes,
so
yes,
it's a big change to just get adjusted, to get orientated, focused right.
yeah,
It's not so easy. Being in Vrindavan, the
yeah.
atmosphere is so intense.
Very pure devotees. Wow.
Yes, so many.
You feel you feel you are nothing. I mean, the way they are so devoted. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
like
And
that
you try
one.
to compete that no, I'm saying it louder,
Yeah, when we go there to the Holy Dham, we realize how insignificant we are
Yes, yes,
in
yes.
the presence of
Very true.
so many great devotees.
Yes.
So,
So I was just trying to relate and understand, is it the mind when you say they
well, you become
they
captivated
gave up
by
the,
higher
yeah,
things. You see, you were absorbed in seeing the deities and maybe taking part in the kirtan. And so what the other things, you were just on a higher level. You could say you put aside these things, the shopping and so on. You put that aside
yeah,
for the higher purpose, for the higher pleasure.
yeah.
Is it the mind? Well, the mind. Well, if the mind is absorbed in Krishna, then there's no loss. There's no problem. You could say it's yoga maya. It's yoga
Yeah,
maya. Krishna brings you closer to him, allows you to become more absorbed in thought of him. This is
yeah,
the power of Krishna's energy, that because you enter into the holy Dham, so Krishna takes control over you and
yeah,
situates you in his devotional service. Because you're approaching him, you're coming into his home, into his holy land. So you become under a different energy. It's not the same as in Taiwan.
yes. So I want to understand how to keep that mind control. That is the thing. That is the reason I'm asking. I mean,
Well, how to keep
yeah,
the mind controlled? I think your mind was controlled okay. You're there in the
yeah.
Holy Land. You got there in the Holy Land. Certainly, you could say, "Oh, I forgot to do the shopping," but
Oh, yeah.
you could think also there's Krishna's arrangement. The Krishna arranged like that so that
Yeah.
you would go back again. You know.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'm going to go back again to get the cushions.
Yeah, right. So this Krishna's arrangement to bring you back again to its own abode.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Holiness Bhakti Vignav Nishma Maharaj ki Jai. So,
For Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. So, Guru Maharaj, we'll see you tomorrow morning for the reading.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.